Hey guys, Miss Zimmerman. Today we're going to be talking about the scientists that were involved in discovering the cell. These are the scientists we'll be going through. You are going to be responsible for knowing who they are and what they did. So make sure that you have your Cornell notes set up in your notebook. As we're going through the notes, write down who they were, what they did. We don't necessarily need to know what years they had or their major discoveries. Just make sure that if you want to write it down that you do. Alright, first guy was Conrad Gesner in 1558. He was the first recorded person to use some sort of magnifying lens. Now, I'm sure there's people before him, but this is just the first written record. All right, Janssens in 1590s, that's this guy right here, he constructed the first compound microscope. And we learned in class that the compound microscope, or we will be learning in class that the compound microscope uses a series of mirrors. And he was able to construct ones that magnified 10 times and 30 times the original magnification. This is what the microscope looked like. Kind of looks like those kaleidoscopes you used as a kid where you look in one side and then whatever's on the other side is what you'll see. Now, they called this microscope flea glass because when he used these to look at small whole organisms like fleas. Now this would be very similar to the dissection microscopes that we use nowadays. The next guy, very important, Anton van Leeuwenhoek. He did his work in the 1660s. He liked to grind lenses and glass and shape them and be able to see what he could do with them. And because this was one of his hobbies, he was able to build hundreds and hundreds of different microscopes, all the way up to 300 times magnification, which is pretty good for the 1660s. Now, he was the first that was able to actually look at microscopic organisms because he was able to magnify so close. And he called these animalcules. He didn't know what they were. He saw that they moved, and you know, prior to this, we didn't know anything about single-celled microscopic organisms. So he made up this name, and he looked at a lot of different things. He looked at pond water. He looked at the scrapings in his teeth and saw the bacteria in there. He looked at various body fluids. Anything he could get his hands on, really, he looked at. Now, at the same time, there was a guy named Robert Hooke who used the microscopes that Anton van Leeuwenhoek made to look at a bunch of different stuff. And he looked at cork cells, cork from the tree. This is a picture of his drawing from his notebook. And if you look, it's just a bunch of hollow squares. And he thought they looked like jail cells. So he decided to call those individual squares cells, and that's how we get the word cells that we talk about. Druche, now we're skipping ahead about 150 years here. He stated that different parts of organisms were made of cells. He wasn't able to really say that every living thing was made of cells. He just said that some parts of them were. Purkinje coined the word cytoplasm. That's pretty much what he's known for. Robert Brown was the first to see nuclei, or to really talk about the nuclei within the cell, and he kind of coined that word for us. Matthias Schleiden, he said that all plants are made of cells, and he worked in the same lab as Theodor Schwann. And Schwann said that all animals were made of cells. So these two guys kind of worked together and divvied up the discoveries. Now, Schwann is also noted for discovering what we call Schwann cells, which are part of the nervous system. If you ever take anatomy or physiology, you'll learn a ton about what Schwann cells are. All right, Rudolf Virchow proposed that all new cells come from pre-existing or old cells. Okay, so he said any new cell that's made had to have come from a cell that was already there. So those are really the major scientists that helped pave the way for cell theory. And cell theory has three main parts. You need to know what these parts are, so make sure that you write them down and start studying them. The first is that all living things are composed of cells. So anything that is alive is made up of cells. Cells are their basic building block. That plays a role into two. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in living things. So this is saying that you can't break a living thing down any further than the cellular level. If you get past the cellular level to the atomic level, then it's no longer considered living. And the third is that all cells are produced from other cells, and that's through a process called mitosis, which we'll be talking about. What is this? That's Robert Hooke's first microscope, and if you look, it had a much different appearance than what we see today, but you put up whatever you wanted to look at down here, and then you looked through this piece, and you had a flame over here that shined light from oil down onto your specimen to illuminate it. Very, very different than what we have seen. All right, so that's it for the scientists. I'll see you tomorrow.